everyone. I'd like to call to order the Cumberland School Committee on Thursday, November 7th, 2024 at 7:37 p.m. We apologize for the delay, but our executive session went long tonight. The first item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Next item on the agenda is approval of agenda. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Motion by Mrs. Feather. Second by Mrs. Vogel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. For the record, Mrs. Rogalski and Mr. Collins are absent tonight. Next item on the agenda is report out of the executive session meeting on November 7th, 2024. Item 1, report out of executive session votes. At tonight's meeting, the committee denied the CTA grievance 2024/2025-1 in a vote 5-0. There were no other votes to disclose tonight. Next item is a vote to seal the minutes of the executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fiorello.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Vogel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the public hearing of policies. Mr. Fiorello.
Yeah, I would just ask that G21, non-contracted at-will employees, and also B2, Code of Basic Management Principles, Ethical School Standards, be read into the record. We will be tabling L4, Building Access, which is the new G9 Building Access, not Building Access, but we'll table L4 for now. So just those two.
Okay, next on the agenda is public comments related to those policies. If there's any comments from the public. Okay, seeing none, we will move to the next item on the agenda, which is our general comments from the public. If anyone from the public would like to make any comments. Seeing none, we will move to new business. Item A, Mr. Crowley. Discussion and or vote to approve CHS cross-country boys and girls overnight field trip to Manchester, Connecticut for the New England Championships, November 8th through the 9th.
Good evening, everybody. This past Saturday at Pontiac High School, both our boys and girls competed in the Rhode Island State Championships. The mark for qualifying for New England is the top 6. Our boys finished 5th, and our girls repeated as state champions. So by virtue of that, the New England Championships will be held this Saturday at Wickham Park in Manchester, Connecticut. There is an overnight with it. They'll stay at an overnight hotel. Transportation is provided by their parents. Students stay with their parents. 14 student athletes are going. The list has been submitted to student management. No fees are incurred per student. It's paid for by their boosters.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
Great work.
the plan is at the next school committee meeting to get them here, but we have other teams still competing in playoffs as well.
Yeah,
So hopefully we can have more than one team here at our next school committee meeting.
right.
Yeah, it was a great day for both our programs.
Pleasure of the committee.
Motion to approve.
Mrs. Feather makes a motion to approve.
Second.
Second
Discussion.
by Mr. Fiorello for discussion.
I just want to point out that this will probably be the last trip that you come to us, or at least come to me for. And I just want to say I appreciate the fact that whenever you've come seeking our approval for a trip, all the paperwork's in order, all the policies are followed. It's a refreshing thing after many years of not seeing it done, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not being done, not by you. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Oh, another comment?
Yeah, I just want to,
Sure.
just having gone to my first cross-country meets this year, it's just an incredible program. So it's just so exciting, and I can't wait to go to more.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Mrs. Feather, a second by Mr. Fiorello. Any other comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0.
Thank you, everybody.
Good luck to everybody. Next item on the agenda, item B, discussion and a vote to approve amended policies. Mr. Fiorillo.
Yes, I just realized I don't have my G21. Oh, I have a G21 right here, thank you. This was just handed to me. I know we just did this policy last week, but something came up during the week, right after that, actually. And it came to my attention that the bus monitor pay did not get updated this year. We need to be competitive, of course, with surrounding towns. So the only change is the bus monitor pay rate, which will go from $15 as a starting rate to $18 per hour. And then the steps after that, after 10 years, it goes up to it'll be $1 more at 19. After 15 years, it'll be 20. After 20 years, $21. That puts us in line with Lincoln, Woonsocket, and hopefully that'll attract some of the bus monitors that we have not been able to hire so far this year, which has been, an annual rite of passage of not being able to find bus monitors. Hopefully this will help. So I would just make a motion to approve that.
Mr. Fiorillo makes a motion to approve G21, non-contracted at-will employees. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Vogel. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, yes, Ms. Smith?
Since Mr. Fiorillo mentioned it, I'd like to know, Madam Chair, if he could just give us an update, if you know, on how many bus monitors that we may not have right now, and how many is Durham supplying?
Durham is only supplying the special ed ones, which they are required to by contract. The only ones that, I think we're missing about, maybe 10, Ms. Drezick? Yeah, so about 10. And I forgot to mention that I had spoken with Mr. McGrath about the fiscal impact, and as you can see, it's not a lot of money and it's not a lot of people. It's a small hit to the budget, so it's not a problem at all.
Thank you.
So we have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. Next, Mr. Fiorillo.
All right, this one gets a little tricky because there's been some late updates to this. Actually, I'm going to ask, can you do it?
Yeah, I'm happy to read.
Yeah, because you have the actual final copy, so. But this is language that I did with Mr. Adams and now Ms. Gonzalez, so this has been a team effort. Actually, I'll give you a little lead-in. What this has to do with really is a couple of things. One is I noticed there was just some language that was not the language I intended when we did this policy a couple of years ago surrounding school committee people volunteering in schools. The purpose of it in item 15 on page 3 of this policy had it on an annual basis that all school committee people would submit a state criminal background check. That was only so that we would be in compliance with our volunteer policy, which requires that. So the language got cleaned up that if you're volunteering in the schools, school committee members need to submit a state background check. The other item was, and this is something I'm sure Ms. Smith will agree with, is that it is imperative that our school committee members fulfill their 6 hours of professional development, which is required by state law. We are the only public office, I believe, that has such a requirement, and it is imperative, I think, for us to be doing that. And it's actually a very simple thing to do. There are plenty of opportunities, and I believe that the information that we get from these conferences and workshops that the the Rhode Island School Association puts on is just very important to our continuing development as school committee members. And
6 hours a year.
you're right, 6 hours a year, which is almost nothing. If you go to the annual meeting, yeah, exactly. If you go to the annual meeting, that's your requirement right there. But it's important information, it really, especially for new members. It's a great way of getting to know what's going on in other districts, get to meet some other members of other school committees, and also to be learning the issues of the day. And what will happen if you do not if you do not fulfill those hours, the chairperson could remove you from committee assignments, chairmanships. The chairperson themselves could be removed as chair by a vote. It's just a step that needs to be taken, I think, to make sure that everybody's doing it. Not a lot of school committees, it's not just our school committee. Most school committees don't have all their members achieve this, and I just think it's wrong, especially when we take an oath of office to follow the law, and we're not. The other item is, one of the other items I had put in late today was something I'd completely forgotten that I've been trying to put in there for a while, is just asking that the clerk has the responsibility to take attendance for all the regular meetings, so we know which members are absent, how many times during the course of a year, which is a requirement of the town charter. That language is actually in the new copy, and this is where I will hand it over to Ms. Gonzalez.
Good evening, everyone. So I will address two specific sections of the draft that Mr. Fiorello brought to our attention. The first is paragraph 13, or section 13. It starts with attend all. Reworded it a little bit, and just for context, there are two paragraphs in that section. The second paragraph is really language that aligns with the Cumberland Town Charter on how a seat on this committee may become vacant. And so I'm just going to read it into the record, and then we can have, if you have questions, we can discuss. So attend all regularly scheduled meetings of the committee and be prepared to consider the issues at those meetings. The second paragraph reads, a vacancy in that membership shall occur if a member is absent for 4 consecutive regular meetings or 6 regular meetings within a 12-month period, unless the absences are excused by a majority of the whole committee. As I mentioned previously, that second paragraph is just verbatim language from the town charter, so there aren't any inconsistencies between the two. There was another, so just wanted to address your last point, Mr. Fiorello, around the clerk keeping track. I'm not seeing that language in the version that I have, unless I am completely missing it.
That was part of the discussion that we didn't have today that I thought we did. Because I know you and Mr. Adams were running around all day.
Got it.
I thought it got put in, but what I would do is I would just ask, probably at the end of, was there something you wanted? Wasn't there something you wanted? Mr. Adams, can you speak briefly before we get to that about the part that you put in at Ms. Friedman's request? And I'm sorry for this, but
No,
this has been going on for weeks.
We've been talking about this for a while.
And normally we would have had a policy subcommittee meeting, but with the election and everything, we weren't able to, so I just wanted to get it done before the next committee takes over, really.
So one of the things that the committee's been or members of the committee have been talking to me about, and I think there have been some discussions about generically, is about the obligation of the committee to maintain the integrity of the committee, for lack of a better way of putting it. And Ms. Friedman had asked me, in my role as counsel, can we have something like an affirmation? And I think that was, so that was something that I was asked, and I think probably the better way to get to that is to have a policy that sort of describes that. So we created several paragraphs that really shouldn't be earth-shattering, frankly. They're really just kind of straightforward and is what the committee does on a meeting-by-meeting basis. But I'll read what we added. And these are the policy is ethical conduct, basically, of the committee. And so new paragraph 17 would be maintain confidentiality of legally protected or private information obtained through work on the committee, such as student educational information or records that are protected under federal and state law, sensitive personnel information, information relating to school security, and information that is subject to the committee's attorney-client privilege. And so it may be surprising to the public, but it certainly wouldn't be surprising to anyone who's sat on the committee. There is a lot of sensitive information, most of which takes place during executive session, in which there are discussions of students. There are obviously discussion of security issues that I think it's relatively self-explanatory why that cannot be out in the public. There are personnel discussions, and those are issues that really should remain privileged, because the folks who have that privilege are not often in the room, and that would be student under FERPA, or personnel records are often privileged records. The other thing that is important and near and dear to Stephanie and me is the attorney-client privilege. When you represent an organization, I don't represent Amy Vogel, for example. I represent the Cumberland School Committee. So the privilege is with the committee, not with any one member. And so it was important that we make sure that we articulate that that is also something that happens. The lawyer gives advice to these folks on occasion. And that was something we wanted to recognize as something that needs to be kept confidential. The next paragraph was exercise good judgment and discretion at all times to avoid unauthorized or unintended disclosures of information referenced in the above paragraph. Number 19, render decisions on contested matters using independent judgment based on available facts and applicable law, and free from influence that impacts a school committee member's integrity in rendering a decision. And then one of the things that Mr. Fiorello has asked about is, what if there's a member who doesn't comport themselves in that fashion? Really, you guys are elected, so the voters are the ones who determine your fate. But certainly the committee can take some kind of action against a member. It won't really have much bearing on the member's future, but one additional paragraph, failure of any school committee member to adhere to the above principles could result in a vote by a majority of the committee to censure the member, to remove the member from a position of chair, vice chair, or clerk, or to remove the member from positions on subcommittees, ad hoc committees, and/or as school liaisons. I will say that with respect to removal from the chairperson's role, this subsection doesn't do anything that isn't already in the committee's other policies about the election of the chair. The chair, the vice chair, the clerk serve at the pleasure of the committee. So even if there has been no infraction, even if, for example, they were a Yankees fan, they could be removed because it is the pleasure of the committee. That would be my recommendation as well, were they a Yankees fan. But sorry, Mr. Fiorello, I don't know if that impacts you. In any event, those are the changes, or those are the amendments that we talked about that I put into the policy.
Yeah, and again, I mean, most of this, especially the part about like being the chair being removed, or the vice chair, or the clerk, or even people being removed from their subcommittee assignments or ad hoc committees, all of this is standard practice anyway. I just felt, and Mrs. Friedman felt, that it would be good to have it in the policy so it's much more readily accessible and more clarified. And I just want to point out that with the recent vote, once we figure out what that actually means, we're going to need to reopen this policy or the other policy, one of the two policies, because, as I'm sure our attorneys don't realize, the town did pass a charter amendment saying that now that if under certain circumstances, if there's a school committee vacancy, the school committee would actually make the decision on who becomes, I think, for the short term. Yeah, I'm not, yeah. So that's going to, once we figure all that out, we'll need to also. But Ms. Gonzalez, Can you just,
So I'm going to reread paragraph 14, or section 14. I added one more sentence to address Mr. Fiorello's comment around recording attendance. So, attend all regularly scheduled meetings of the committee and be prepared to consider the issues at those meetings, period. The clerk shall record attendance at all regularly scheduled meetings of the committee, period. That second paragraph I did not touch, but I'll read it again. A vacancy in the membership shall occur if a member is absent for 4 consecutive regular meetings or 6 regular meetings within a 12-month period, unless the absences are excused by a majority vote of the whole committee. And again, that last section just mirrors what's in the town charter.
yeah, so I would make a motion to, I'm sorry?
Sure. A vacancy in the membership shall occur if a member is absent for 4 consecutive regular meetings or 6 regular meetings within a 12-month period, unless the absences are excused by a majority vote of the whole committee. You're welcome.
Yeah, this has been a
Yeah.
very active document today, and I apologize for that. I would make a motion to approve this policy as amended. Or do I need to approve the amendments first, Mr. Adams? I think I can just approve the amended version that's on the table, right?
So, what was in the drive?
Different stuff.
Then there should be a motion to approve, and then a motion to amend, and then the amendment will be, well, I'm assuming that the committee will be in favor of all of this, so assuming the committee is in favor of these changes, a motion to approve the amended language that was originally in it, then a motion to amend the amended language as described by Ms. Gonzalez.
Gotcha. So I'll make
Vote
a
on the amendment, then vote on the motion as amended. Did you follow that, Mr. Fiorello?
I think so. I'm going to make a motion to approve the amended version of this policy,
As was in the drive.
as was in the drive.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to approve the amended policy as it were in the drive. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Smith. Any discussion?
How about a motion to amend that?
Hold
Oh,
on.
sorry.
Hold on. All in favor? No?
No?
Oh, sorry, I don't.
You need a motion now to amend. Assuming the commit,
I will make a motion to amend what we just voted on.
to include
To include the new
verbiage
changes.
Ms. Gonzalez added. Did you, what was in the drive is not what Ms. Gonzalez read. So we voted on what was in the drive.
No, I didn't take the vote yet.
You can't take the vote until the amendment is voted on. There needs to be a motion to
I
amend.
thought we always voted to amend first and then voted for the amended
No.
draft.
You're right.
I am right.
No. You now
Twin
vote,
brother.
now move to amend.
You amend it first.
You move to amend, no, you move to amend. You move to amend. Trust me.
I do, I do.
Do it, Mr. Fiorello, whatever he
I'm going to
says.
vote to amend the motion
Move to amend the motion to include the
to
language.
include the language that Ms. Gonzalez laid out.
Hopefully there'll be a second if the committee wants to approve that.
Fiorello makes a motion to do what? Amend? The thing by
Somebody just say
Mrs. Gonzalez. Well, I need to make sure the clerk gets it.
I know, amend the amended policy to include language given by Mrs. Gonzalez.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Smith. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. I can't, it passes 5-0.
Now you vote on the motion as amended.
Yeah, that's
Motion, I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Now you make a, now you move to, now you vote on the motion as amended.
Vote on the motion as amended. I made a motion, what did I make a motion?
Motion to approve amended policy.
I'll make a motion
No,
to,
there's no motion, we're just voting. Okay, we're just taking a vote. All in favor of
aye.
the amended motion? Aye. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes 5-0.
In 12 years, we have never done it like this.
It's okay, you won't have to worry about it with us
This is
soon.
why we do things in subcommittee usually.
Okay, sorry, guys, you saw that live action, so don't feel so bad when you get up here and you don't know what's going on. We've only been here for 8 and 12 years. Fine, Mr. Adams. I won't forget this. Okay. So, we did it, I think.
I will make a motion to table L4
I'll second that.
indefinitely.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to table the amended policy L4 building access. We have a second by Mrs. Feather. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll just explain what's happening. There's been discussion about this going back and forth, as you know. This has been on the agenda several times. We decided that we needed to bolster the policy, and then Mr. Adams brought up that a lot of it should just be procedural and not in policy, so we were going back and forth on that. So there was a lot of discussion, and I think it sounds like from a brief conversation I had with Mr. Chandler that Dr. Thornton does feel that some of it should just be procedural. However, there's a lot of other stuff that I added to that policy that should remain in that policy. So the next subcommittee policy, the next policy subcommittee will need to review this draft and rework it, so.
Okay, so we have a motion to table and a second by Mrs. Feather. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. So I just want to, I didn't do this at the beginning, welcome our audience tonight, all of our new school committee members, and President Kinch, thank you so much for being here. As I understand it, this is not in the agenda, sorry. As I understand it, the vote will be certified by November 21st, is what I think we heard. So our next meeting, November 14th, would be this current committee, unless something changes. So I believe that's how it will be, and then likely, a special meeting will be scheduled to swear in the new committee after November 21st, when it's certified. That's how I believe it will work. So next, vote to go into executive session. I think we're good with that.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to adjourn. Second by Mrs. Vogel. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. We are adjourned at 8:05 PM. Thank you, everyone.